Did you get the hint? Still not? Is that enough for you? Not enough? Still not enough? Oh fuck! It stopped the recording! Fuck! I wonder if we got the hint. Still not enough? Is that not enough? More? That should give a hint. Come Melo, it's your Tech Visitors girl Melody Tensei! And as you can see with this chaos clump of technologies right now, you may not understand what this means. Why is there 2 VR controllers and 1, 2, 3, 4 devices, and 1 more to come later, on the table? Well, if you've read the title of this video, you would understand that, yes, I'm strapping these things on my body. For what? For VR. So if you don't know, there's this project out there called Slime VR. So what Slime VR does is that they basically took what's already in the technology of the phones, like the accelerometer, the gyroscope, and all kinds of motion-related sensors in the device, made it simpler in a tiny PCB, a dedicated one, and booyah, you got a tracker. And then if you combine 5 of them, you got yourself a full lower body skeleton. Why 5 of them? That's because primarily the data that is available for the accelerometer is not enough to form up 3, like say 2 legs and a hip. Unfortunately, that's not enough because it doesn't know precisely how far it goes, but it does know approximately how far it goes. So it's not position perfect. There may be a bit of yaw here and there, but that's something that can be fixed pretty easily, honestly. However, what if we take whatever Slime VR has done in the current time, and we return to the monkey days and use the very device that inspired it? So we're gonna put this away and maybe make some room for this. Let's give the iPhone a spotlight, I suppose. So you haven't watched the prior video of mine of replacing the battery for this phone, then you wouldn't understand why this phone came to be. So I've done some more experiments, jailbroken and stuff like that. That's primarily because I was trying to archive the app in question, but to no avail. I'm still not at that level of expertise to archive the app just yet. But that's fine, that's perfectly fine. I am in no rush of doing it. So the app in question that we're looking for right now is OWO Track. Are you okay? Hello? Oh, it doesn't work with this tip. Hold on. Much better. There we go. So the app in question that we're looking for is OWO Track. And as you can see, it shows motion sensor, accelerometer, gyroscope, magnetometer. It's using every available sensor that has something to do with motion to create a positional data to send to a central server, but not external central server, just central in the way that it is in your computer to create a skeleton. But we'll get to that in a moment. We'll explain how that works in a moment. But first things first, what we need to do is we have to go to the Connect tab and type down the IP address of the said device that we're going to be on. However, there are some things we still have to do prior. So what we need to do is create a Wi-Fi hotspot from the PC that you want to have your VR session in. Well, that's mostly for latency reasons, but if you're really close to the router, you don't really have to do that at all. But because I'm kind of far away from the router, it may be a necessity for me. So we're gonna get into that. Right, it's been a while since we're back on the desktop. So what we wanna do is we're gonna have our settings tab, and what we want from here is we'll create a mobile hotspot that is on Wi-Fi, specifically on 2.4 gigahertz, because you'll thank me later in the future. But it's mostly because it's far easier when it comes to coverage-wise if you're a little bit far or if you're in a radio noisy environment, or particularly 5 gigahertz, especially when it's in the trend these days, then 2.4 might be a good options sometimes. It may be particularly 2.4 GHz noisy in some other places, but depending on the situation of the Wi-Fi in your area, feel free to choose accordingly. But in my specific case, it would be 5 GHz noisy, so I would choose the other instead, where it's a little bit quiet on 2.4 at the moment. So with that said, let's turn on the mobile hotspot. And what we want to do is we're going to try to connect to it right now. Now, depending on whether you're using a mobile hotspot from Windows or you're on your local network, this might differ a whole lot. So in my case, specifically on a Windows hotspot, since the computer in question is hosted on exactly the same machine where the skeleton server is going to be, which is known as the SlimeVR server, we only need to refer to the address known as the router. However, if you're using your existing local connections, then the local IP for the SlimeVR server would be your answer. So once you've typed down the IP address that you're looking for, we're gonna prepare the other devices to also all do the same. And hello Redmi. So if you've seen the previous video where I talked about holding onto a Redmi as a contracted phone, then you know that I was going to plan to do something with the device. However, for this very video, we're gonna be doing something a little different. Considering this video being a SlimeVR video, we're heavily focusing on using the phones as the way they are for a tracker. So currently it's on CR Droid, in case you're wondering, because Lineage OS has been discontinued for this phone. Not exactly discontinued, more like there's absolutely no maintainer, so there are some maintenance on the good guys at CR Droid, so I'm just selling in CR Droid for the time being. It won't be on CR Droid for long. But regardless, we got OVO Track installed on Android as well. As you can see, it's not just iOS, Android has it too as well. So we're gonna do exactly the same. So we're gonna input the IP address for the SlimeVR server, and then we'll press connect later. We're gonna hold on to it for now and push that aside. We're gonna do the same for the other devices that we have, and sometimes auto connect works. Oh, it filled itself in. Let's go. That is if you actually have SlimeVR already turned on in the background on your computer. And finally, the big ol' iPad. Oh damn. Hey Faye. Okay, we got all the IPs written down, and you could also do a test connections if you already have turned it on prior, like I did just mention before. And now we're getting ready. So we're gonna need to hop over to the computer side of things to take care of this. Right, so now what we gotta do is we're gonna open up SlimeVR. Feel free to put it on full screen if you feel like it, so let's get it all set up. And usually with traditional SlimeVR equipment, you are expected to type in your Wi-Fi credentials first, because what it needs to do is to apply these Wi-Fi settings through cable, because these tiny custom PCB chips are instructed to do very, very specific things, and this SlimeVR program is meant to program these things to do so. However, since we're putting those IP address ourselves, we'll have to skip the Wi-Fi settings for now. And what we want to do right now is we're gonna turn on every single one instance. So like all of these down here. Alright, once everything's connected, we're gonna start setting them accordingly. So this is where you're gonna need to know which device goes to which part of your body, because we're gonna need to start assigning those trackers accordingly. So for now, we're gonna need to set a lower body set or you could set the core set instead, because we're gonna need the hip tracking instead of the chest tracking. And I'll explain why later. So first up, I'm gonna decide that I want this iPhone to be my left ankle. So the good part is that as long as you're connected to SlimeVR, whatever movements you're doing, it can be seen on SlimeVR on the computer. So you can see that it's glowing. That's because I'm doing intense motion like this. So it's showing some form of activity. So we're gonna need to click on that. Then we know that it is this tracker. So now that we've set this one, we're gonna set it aside and get onto the next one. So I probably want this one to be set to my right ankle. So let's do this. And we know that it is this one. We can rename that in the future, but for now, we just don't have that choice just yet. And then probably we will want that for the thighs, so maybe this one for the left thigh. Right, we got that one taken care of, and we got one more, that is the hip. Okay, now that we got all the parts, wait a second. The right thigh is not even set, but I ran out of device on my table. One moment. You won't expect this phone to be joining the Slime VR video. That's because this is actually my real daily driver and I don't really show my actual stuff because of privacy reasons. Well, welcome to the gang, I suppose. And we're gonna connect it and assign that to the right thigh. Alright, with everything set up, we're gonna head on to the next step. So right here is where it's expected you to have already mounted the devices onto yourself. But Mel, they're phones. How do you expect to strap devices onto yourself? What are you gonna use? Fucking tape? I got one better than you. Wait a second. So I went to AliExpress and looked for the cheapest thing that I could use to strap phones on myself. So I got phone straps, and all we gotta do is get all these devices placed into the straps like this. Right, once you got the phone in the phone stash thingy-majig, you're gonna want the phone, the upper side of the phone, like facing up like this. We're gonna want it to be, hello, on your legs, facing upwards towards you. Kind of like when the leg is flowing up towards towards you and your body. So you're gonna want it in that general direction when you put phones on yourself. That applies to every single phone, including the thigh one and the hips. So you're gonna want to do that because primarily this is the best for its tracking. Same could be applied for even the general Slime VR tracker. You're gonna need that as well. Now it can be a little bit difficult to walk in phones because that's not really the actual intended use of a phone, so you either just get used to it or, I don't know, engineer something, I guess. Now that we got all strapped up, what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to get to automatic mounting and make sure that all your trackers are set up correctly. So like that includes putting on your headset and moving your hips and see if your hips are also doing all that job. Your legs, your feet, your thighs, and your hand controllers. So I'm controlling this interface right now using the Steam VR desktop interface right now, so it'll be more easier. So what you want to do is I have my all trackers on, and what it wants you to do right now is stand straight, like put your hands on the side, and also stand up straight so that it detects everything for a full reset. Once you've done that, what you want to do is get squatting. You're gonna need a squat, which could also mean destroying my phone straps, but whatevs, it's for a video. So you're gonna need to squat down really, really hard. You can see on that next panel that I am trying really hard. And we're gonna need to get them a little back, like as you can see, this curves in the hand, right, like that. It's almost like you're actually skiing, so do that. And once you've done that, in theory it works. However, if you're wondering what's with my hands overlapping each other, that's just a bug in which controller it actually is using. It's kind of hilarious. It's having a difficulties differentiating what's left and what's right. So, but now that you look carefully, you'll notice that it's actually fully working now. Look at that. How cool is that? I almost dropped the phone. I gotta be really careful. And I can kind of move my thigh, as you can see. Kind of, to some extent. So I can also move my ankles a little bit. Let me try to move over to the side. I mean, not to the side, to the front. Like I can kind of shift my ankles like that. It's kind of janky, but to be fair, it's a phone and you can't really expect too much from it. If you want a more precise tracking, it's always better to use a more proper Slime VR tracker. However, as it currently stands, it somehow works, I guess. And it's gonna want you to do very specific instructions, and you're gonna need to follow precisely what they want on the screen. You're gonna follow the steps. So you can feel free to pause this part of the video and read what they have there, but I'm going to follow it as it is. Now that we got onto this step, you can feel free to press play, and then it's going to tell you what you want to do. So it has to be specifically these steps in sequence, and then repeat the whole cycle again. Because what it's looking for is a specific pattern to how you're moving, and then based off of that, measure out the proportion of your body. So you gotta make sure you try not to screw it up. So have a little rehearsal before you do this process. Once it does the whole thing, it should give you a result. Unfortunately, I am terrible with the numbers, so I'm just gonna assume that they're correct. And there you have it. We got kind of a result that we may want. You can see that I can kind of move my thigh like that, and I could probably stand on something and you'd see that I'm standing on something. So we're kind of all set. And that's pretty much it. This is how you strap phones onto yourself to play VR. Right, let's get on VR chat. Right, now that we're in the world in VR chat, what you want to do is we're gonna click on calibrate full body tracking because the trackers are not linked to our avatar just yet. So what you're gonna do is stretch your arms. Here's my other controller, and you might want to look around and make sure that your trackers are aligned to your avatar, and then click both triggers. And now it's clicked in. Now we can move around. Although it's a little bit janky, it's not exactly perfect. These are some things that you might want to set in the Slime VR settings to fine-tune it so that it will be almost perfect. However, I don't really have all the time to set it up, primarily because this setup is not actually my real full body tracking setup. I actually have a real full body tracking setup that is also Slime VR, but by concept, this is one of the funniest ideas I've ever made. That is technically possible by documentations officially by Slime VR themselves. So I'm basically just making a video so people know that, hey, you can use your phones as trackers if you don't mind the huge chunky phone on your ankle. But yeah, I hope you like this fairly weird lackluster video that somehow needs to take quite long to edit and put out onto YouTube, I guess. And oh, by the way, if you move the hip tracker, it works. But yeah, with that said, I don't know what to tell you. It's just one of the dumbest videos I have ever made in my life, but I hope you enjoy this well outside phone tech kind of video that I have made for the past 3 videos. And I hope you enjoy this video, and be sure to subscribe, be sure to press the like button, be sure to press the bell notification so that you won't miss my future videos. And be sure to check out my Ko-fi. Donate me financially so that you can support me, and I'll be able to continue making these crazy videos like that. And hopefully, eventually, I might be able to hire an editor. Who knows? We'll never know for now. But also check out my Discord if you want to keep in touch with me and have a good chat about anything tech. You can also check out my live streams because I'll be playing some games and also have some chat yapperinos. This is where I basically have fun and do content that I can't really do on video because it's not really good for the algorithm. So I do it on the live stream because sometimes it's a lot more fun to do it on the live stream than to do it on video. But you know, you get the gist. And with that said, thank you all so much for watching. Oh god, this is such a stupid video. There's so much things to clean up. Not to mention the phones I've strapped onto myself. I gotta take it all down and everything. But yeah, see you guys next time. Otsubera deshita. See ya! Boo! That. Ah, the phones! It's so hot. The phones are somewhat heating up.